Welcome. This is Blake Archery. I'm David Blake. I hope you enjoy today's show. On today's show, we're going to be making homemade stabilizers for our bows. Like I said before, when you're making your own stabilizer, you're able to play with different lengths, different weights. It'll just help you get your setup, whether you're a target archer or a hunter. It'll help get your setup the way you like it. If you're a person that's going out west and you're conscious of weight, then you may want to go with a little bit longer stabilizer, because the longer stabilizer you go with, the less weight you'll need on the front end to help hold your bow. On stabilizers, your main part of your stabilizer rod, it needs to be light with just the weight out on the end. Makes a big difference. The main thing that I make my stabilizers out of is trekking poles. I got these trekking poles from a local store for $20. You don't have to go out and buy the most expensive trekking poles to do this stabilizer build. These poles here will do some other accessories you're going to need on this build. You're going to need some Fender Washers. I've got 5 here, 5 Fender Washers, 1/4 by 1.5 Fender Washers. Also, you're going to need 4 rubber washers, 1/4 hole by 1.5, same size as your Fender Washers. You're also going to need a 5/16 by 24 fine thread bolt and some nuts for this build. The 5/16 by 24 thread will fit the receiver on any stabilizer hole on a bow. It's just a common size for any bow. You're going to need, to make this build here, like this right here set up, you're going to need 1/4 inch washers, 4 of them. The only problem with a 1/4 inch washer, we're going to drill out the center hole to 5/16. So what I do is, I'll get several washers, I'll go put them in my vise, tighten them down, I'll get my drill and drill the washers out to a 5/16 where they'll fit on here. The main thing you're needing is the diameter of a 1/4 inch washer, is why we drill these out. With this here, that's what we're wanting to build before we install this into our stabilizer. I've been playing around also with this 5/16 inch spacer. If you can find one, instead of this, you could build this. It'll work also. But you need this size here and the size of that washer to fit down into our trekking poles and keep it centered. Next, you're going to need a coupling nut. You're going to need it 1/4 by 20 coarse thread. And this one is 1 3/4 long. You can, I would say 1 3/4 or longer is what you need. Then you're going to need a 1/4 by 20 coarse thread bolt, at least 1 inch long, all thread. Some of your 1/4 inch washers, and we don't have to drill these out, and a nut. Also on this build, you're going to need a pipe cutter, tape measure. You're going to need a steel stick by JB Weld. I've had good results with the JB Weld. I haven't had any breaks yet. One thing about it, if it does break, you built it and you know how to fix it. I also got a piece of cardboard that I use to mix up my JB Weld on, just to keep from JB Weld getting on the table. There is one other accessory that I use. I like it a lot. It's the Max Jack Stabilizer Dampner. I got this from Lancaster Archery. I'm not sure who all carries this, but I do believe they help on your stabilizer, help take out some shock. But for me, more than anything, I think they look good. There's two different sizes. The regular Max Jack is what I use the most, and it'll fit a diameter of 9/16 to an inch. They also make a Super Max Jacks, and it fits 3/4 to 1.5 inches diameter. But like I said, I normally on my builds with the trekking poles, I use the normal Max Jack stabilizer Dampner. Okay, on your trekking poles, you'll get your trekking pole, unscrew it, take it apart. All the ones I've seen come in 3 pieces. There's all different kinds with different little ends here. I haven't ever made a stabilizer out of the bottom piece. You could if you wanted to. The middle piece and the top are the main two that I use for my stabilizers. And I like the top the best, just the size of it. But if you get a trekking pole and it has the little plastic end, I keep that on there. So I'll measure from here to wherever I want to cut, however long stabilizer I want. I'll take my pipe cutter and cut the pipe. Once I get my pipe to the desired length, I'll fill the inside with the 5/8 inch foam that you can get at a hardware store. I have used spray foam. If you do, use the kind that's made for doors and windows. Don't use the kind that expands a lot. It'll be a mess. So I got my foam piece inside. This is when you'll take your JB Weld. You'll mix it up. You'll get your 5/16 by 24 fine thread bolt. You'll get it set up. You'll JB Weld one of the washers onto the head. Then you'll take a nut, screw it on, washer, and then another nut. And if you have any thread tightener, you can put some thread tight on there. Tighten that down as good as possible. You don't want any of this to come loose. You'll take your pole, not the plastic end, but the end that you cut. You'll get it started. You'll get your JB Weld that you got mixed up. And you'll start squishing your JB Weld in here, turning your trekking pole at all times. Fill that whole cavity up with JB Weld. Go ahead and smush it in right there, and then you'll fill up all around that nut, trying to keep the JB Weld from not getting onto your thread. And you'll want a 1/2 inch of thread sticking out. You try to keep it as centered as possible. Once your JB Weld dries, you can take a file and sand down any rough edges. This one is already cured, and I've already took a file to it and sanded it down. I've got a 1/2 inch of thread hanging out. And by the way, this is a different color trekking pole, and it had a rubber handle onto the pole itself. And so I decided to keep it. Kind of like it. So just keep your mind open when you're making these and try different stuff. So now this is your finished product for your bow side. We've got to go to the other side with the plastic piece. And like I said, some of them don't have this plastic piece, but this is going to be your weighted end. So on your weighted end, that's when you're going to need your coupling nut. You're going to take your coupling nut, your 1/4 inch coarse thread bolt, 3 of your 1/4 inch washers. We'll put the nut on, and then you're going to thread this onto the coupling. At this point, you tighten that down as good as possible. Then you're going to take the piece that you just made. You'll have to make you up some more JB Weld. And all you'll need to make up is just, you cut off about a 1/2 inch of JB Weld. Mix it up good together till it's a good gray color. Then you'll be ready to go. So you'll start this into your trekking pole. You'll take JB Weld, smushing it all in here, easing it down in there. Try to get JB Weld all the way around, evenly across the whole thing. You'll be surprised how much that JB Weld, if you just keep going, it'll actually center that. If it don't center, get you another random 1/4 inch by 20 coarse thread. Put it on there. Hold it out here, and it'll help you smush that JB Weld in and get that thing as center as possible. And then once it dries, if you need to take a file to it, you can file it off smooth. And then that is your finished product, besides adding your weight and your dampener. Now on my weights, the way I do it is I'll put a fender washer, rubber washer, fender washer, so on and so forth, until you got whatever weight that you want. Now right here is where you can play around with different weights. Like I said, the longer the stabilizer, the less weight you'll need. But I'll put the rubber pieces in between. That helps give it a little more dampening in the stabilizer. And then you just simply screw that on. Tighten it down. At this point, I'll take my Max Jack stabilizer dampener. And like I said, you don't have to use these, but I think it makes it look better, and I think it does help. And there is another thing, and I'll show you. With this Max Jacks, you can play around with where you want it on your stabilizer. You can have it all the way out here at the end, all the way against the bow, or anywhere in between. You could put 2 of them on. If you get the regular Max Jack, the package comes with 2. You can put 1 here and 1 up here. Just whatever works best for your setup and what you're trying to accomplish. But that there, folks, is the finished product. I hope this has been an informative video for y'all, and I hope it helps you out, helps you save a little money. And when you go to shoot, somebody asks about your stabilizer, they'll be impressed to hear that you made it yourself. Thank you for watching today's video on how to make your homemade stabilizer. I hope the video will help you build your own, and I hope they work as well for you as they have for me. Right now, I believe I'm fixing to get out and shoot a little bit myself before it gets dark. But y'all just stay strong, never give up, and thank you for watching today's video. Hey, get my bow. We're fixing to shoot.